All right, what's up, guys? So back at you again, Lamden. We're going to talk a little bit today about these other projects that people are oftentimes in the Telegram and Discord comparing us to, why we're different, why we're better as a fundamental platform. So people, I'm just going to run through it. So people love Arc. Arc's great, I guess. There's a few things different between Arc and Lamden. So for one, we're much more focused on like the enterprise and the adoption standpoint. Arc just kind of made their technology, and we're like, hey, yeah, you can use it if you want. Yet they say that they're trying to get this integrated. They went through a redesign on their website. That's cool and everything. I just don't really see a lot of difference really between them and let's say Lisk. Also, you're looking at 5 transactions per second, which is actually slower than Ethereum. It's written in JavaScript, which is an unsafe language, and what that means is that like a lot of enterprises don't know how JavaScript is going to work underneath of it. JavaScript has a lot of quirks because it wasn't designed from like the CPU up; it was designed from the browser down, so it doesn't actually act like a computer in a lot of ways. There's a lot of strange quirks when you're doing comparisons between like a string and an integer, and it spits out something completely different, and it's not concurrent. And there's just it's a mess. So it's nice to use, right? It's really nice and easy to use, and a lot of people who are coming from like a website design sort of world to get into software development use JavaScript because it's what they know. It's not great though. They don't have the atomic swaps, so Lamden's focus on interoperability through atomic swaps, and that's a trustless way by which you can exchange value between each other. That's very important. The smart bridge that people are comparing that functionality to in Arc to Lamden is it's not automatic, right? And so you have to implement these things yourself, and there aren't a lot of really good resources to do that. The thing with Lamden is that if you make a project with the Lamden tools, which is extremely easy to do, it's automatically connected to the central blockchain, so there's interoperability there automatically. The smart bridge stuff, you got to really finagle it and figure out what you're doing, and you have to already have some project in existence to integrate it with.
Yeah, and that's not practical for many of these large enterprises as well. They have very built foundations, and they're not going to be able to take something like Arc and integrate it easily and get everybody on board with it.
Yeah. A lot of these companies also use these enterprise like Java. They'll use Java over JavaScript, which is completely different because they know what Java does, and Java works no matter what version it is. With JavaScript, the funkiest little thing can cause the whole thing to blow up, and so it's like it's not going to work for a lot of these enterprises. They don't have the time, they don't have the resources, and it's just not going to work. Yeah. AION is also one of the more recent ICOs that people are comparing us to. The interesting thing about AION is that well, they have no code, so I don't really know what they're doing. They say they're doing a lot, right? I've read their white paper. Their website's flashy, right? And I think a lot of people got in because they saw that flashy site. They tricked Vitalik into tweeting about them, which was very clever. See, they said that he was an advisor when he wasn't, and so Vitalik made a statement saying he wasn't, and then everybody was like, "What's AION? Wow, what a great organization!" I love that level of honesty and responsibility.
Yeah.
That being said, I read their white paper, right, and they're saying, consensus. We have our own consensus mechanism. It has machine learning. So not only are we blockchain, we're also machine learning. And it's like, okay, what is proof of intelligence? Turns out that they don't know. They say that it's like you have to solve. In machine learning, they're like a step closer to like a well-trained machine learning algorithm is one step of gradient descent. And they're like, oh yeah, if you do a step of gradient descent in the right direction towards a better algorithm, then you did the proof. But to prove that the step of gradient descent is in fact in the right direction, you have to perform gradient descent yourself. So it's not like you can easily check these things. So to prove the work is done, you have to do the work yourself. And so then it's like that's a moot point. It doesn't make any sense, right? And so if you read more into the white paper, it says in their white paper, we're still researching how the hell this is going to work. We don't know how to actually prove it. We don't know where these neural networks that we're training are going to come from. We don't know who's providing the data sets. We don't know any of it. But it's machine learning, and machine learning's hot. So come on in. Also, transactions. Instead of using hash cash, which is what we're using, which is what Bitcoin originally was worked off of, where they are like, yeah, transactions. So if you want to use our protocol, you gotta spend tokens. Okay, I guess that, what does that do? There's a demand, there's an artificial demand for the tokens then. It costs money to use. Lamden's free transactions. And the way that we do that is through hash cash, which is small, fixed difficulty, proof of work puzzles that basically prevent DDoS attacks. And that's what they say these transaction costs are for, to prevent DDoS attacks. But really, when it's transaction fees, it's usually to reward miners or to move money around so that there's like some sort of activity, economic activity. We don't believe that. For us, why people are nodes is because that they have applications that they want to ensure the functionality of, and there is an economic reason for all of these apps to work the same way, and those are the delegates, and that makes sense. And because we're not doing proof of work as the actual mechanism to move a block forward, our transaction speeds are like 10,000 transactions per second. So you just completely ridiculous. And also, AION is cross-chain. You got to use their interface or whatever. I mean, Lamden's like RESTful API stuff. This is, if you're familiar, it's like basic. The standards are already there. We're not making our own AION 1 protocol. We're not making anything crazy. We use the stuff that people already know how to use. And so the adoption rate's going to be there.
Yeah.
AION's interesting. AION's from Korea, and I'll be honest, I know a little bit about them. I could probably speak more about them if I did more research, but I skimmed over their white paper, and it sounds good. I was impressed. Now, digging in the white paper, they say that all of these chains are going to essentially interact with each other because there's one super chain that has a VM over it, which is a virtual machine, and that's going to make sure everybody's playing safe. Now, the thing that we don't like is that a virtual machine, you can think of like the rules for the blockchain. So like, how much reward does it get? How much do the fees cost? What do the operations do? Things like that. That's all covered on the VM. So what you can do on the blockchain is inside of that virtual machine. Now, if I'm an enterprise, I want to be able to tune what that virtual machine is because I have my own needs as an enterprise. I want to slim that down. I only want to do like 6 different things, so it's going to be a smaller virtual machine. Where I want to do a much bigger spectrum of things. It's going to be larger, right? Ethereum has their own virtual machines. These are the hot new things. Everyone has their own virtual machine now. I have Stu, VM, not really. But, basically, the thing is that if the virtual machine is immutable, and that's what's basically dictating whether or not you can communicate with other chains, that's a point of failure because those rules might not work for everybody. And the difference between Lamden is that because it's RESTful, and it's because the atomic swaps are actual instructions on the individual blockchains themselves, there's no overarching structure. So it's not like there's one entity that's saying this is how these swaps happen, because I don't know what people are going to be swapping. Is it going to be a house for a car? Well, those are two different things. And why would we want to create a structure that's limited or held by a single authority when people develop stuff all the time? It doesn't really make sense. So that's my criticism of ICON. Then we have Cosmos. Now, Cosmos is interesting. It's written by Tendermint, which is one of the original players in the development space of blockchains. The biggest thing that I see preventing Cosmos and Tendermint from being adopted, because Tendermint's been around for a long time, is that it's written in Go. And Go's cool, right? People like Go. It's sexy, it's fun, it's sleek, but enterprises do not use Go because the resource pool is very low. It's hard to scale up teams, and it's hard to maintain a Go database, code base, when you can't find a lot of developers on it. So while it's niche for what it does, which is like networking and high throughput networks, which is what blockchains, transactions, and everything like that, it's not very good for enterprises. Now with Python, which is what we're developing it in, Python's extremely ambiguous in the fact that it does networking well. UV Loop, which is one of the libraries, gets just as good performance as Go. and you can integrate other types of applications. Like if you want to have machine learning as part of your blockchain, more in a way than AION says that they're going to do it, right? You don't have to switch code bases. Where if you have a Go code base, you'd have to create the machine learning application in Python, which is what most people use for machine learning, or Lua or something like that. That's an app. And then the Go app's on the side, and then you have to write some sort of router in between them. And that just is a big pain. So, by writing it in Python, you never have to leave your one app. And that's really good because, you don't have to learn any languages. It's all right there. You hire one Python programmer, which is very common, and you say, hey, check it out. It's all written in Python. You don't need to go anywhere. Polkadot. Polkadot got hacked by Gavin Wood is coming at you with his multi-sig wallet. First time, all right, I'll give it to you first time because it was never seen.
Second time.
Second time. Now, the thing is that Gavin Wood developed Solidity, which is the language by which the smart contracts that got broken into were written in. So what happened is Gavin Wood was like, hey, I wrote Solidity, so I don't need to go through the security audits because I know this thing back and forth. Okay, first time, fine, I get it. All right, first time you get once. So it gets hacked, and you say, all right, the arrogance is gone. Right, so now that you've learned your lesson, you're going to make sure you go through a security audit this time, right? No, he didn't. And then some dum-dum tripped over something and sent a kill transaction, just some random dude. It wasn't even like a hacker. He was just playing around on the blockchain, sent a kill transaction to the library that supported all the multi-sig wallets, including Polkadot's, on parity. Millions of dollars. Whoops. Bigger than the DAO hack. Bigger than the DAO hack. And this guy is going to run this awesome interoperability company. Yeah, right. Are you kidding me? So Dragon Chain. Dragon Chain is interesting, and they're probably the most aligned with what we're doing in terms of ideology. It's written in Python. It's got some interesting tech that came out of Disney. So they're thinking the same ways. You don't have to reinvent things. Let's use a language that's agnostic, and let's try to attack this adoption thing. Now, they say that they are doing some things, I will say this. They are doing some things that basically make it easy for a developer to get into blockchain development. But we are producing even more tooling beyond that. So like a smart contracting package manager, a way to essentially spin up these, they're called Docker containers, which is like a little computer that contains the blockchain that you can scale really easily. Now Dragon Chain has Docker containers. It's up to you to do the DevOps. We provide the DevOps for you out of the box. Then the interoperability. They have interoperability too, but ours is agnostic through the atomic swaps. Now, I'm also not sure about the chain technology that you have to use. Their white paper is pretty bare in terms of the actual technical details. They just kind of divert you to, look at the Disney research, and then we are just taking their IP and then, commercializing it, essentially. If you have to use their chain versus Lamden supports any chains that exist now and into the future, if you want to interoperate, you just have to have a method that adheres to these protocols, and Lamden produces the protocols out of the box for the main Bitcoin, like Ethereum, and then the Tau, which is now Cilantro chains. What is it? The thing, cilantro. I think some people are.
It's a delicious chain.
Yeah. It's a controversy. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, it is.
These four things are provided to you, and then it's like EOS. I want to make my own EOS chain, right? Boom, Lamden produces the box by which you can then deploy it, and then the interface to connect to the network, and you're good to go. I don't really see that in the white paper of Dragon Chain, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. So that's the basic shtick.
Basically, Lamden is one of the only good options for especially enterprise use for long-term growth. A lot of these guys, while they do have their own little perks, none are suitable for many of these adoptions. It seems like they're thinking of a current fix or something right now while we're looking long-term growth, especially for these large-scale companies. They're not going to do things that these guys are demanding. They're not going to change their whole size or how they have things set up so that they can use Arc Smart Bridge. they're going to use Lamden because they can just plug into Lamden and easily adopt without changing what they've been working on.
Yeah. There's two things. Like if you want to make money in a business or you want something to be adopted, you got to do two things. You either save someone time or you save someone money. And by saving time, you save them money. And so if you have to integrate, when you're making a decision between which of these to use, if you have to pay for transactions, you're not going to use it.
Yeah.
If you have to spend time to hire somebody to learn what the hell ARC is and then learn what the hell SmartBridge is and then integrate it, you're not going to use it. When you can use Lamden, that's boom, instant, none of those problems, and then you're up, ready to go. So there's different reasons, right? And we're focused very much on the adoption play so that it's the easiest way for people to adopt it. And also, we're focusing on actual applications right now that to go out and sell, like real estate applications, innovation banking, just different sorts of digitizing assets and creating these products to get that base up, because the more people that use this platform, the more successful it is, and that's what really drives the value.
Yeah. And while we say we're focusing on the enterprise application, by doing this, we've also created the perfect foundation for any application adoption. So, I mean, while we are focusing on these large-scale corporations, what these guys can do so that we can infiltrate these vertical markets, it still is able to be used for any application. If you want to create your own, ours still is going to be one of the best options for not only ease of use, but transactional speeds, costs, and interoperability.
Yeah. So cool. I mean, that's about it.
Yep.
So thanks, guys. Hope that clears some things up.
And yeah, be sure to ask us any questions. Hopefully this helps you guys get an understanding of where we're at. But yeah, thanks, guys.
Cool. Thanks.